Queen. For Kryta!
Your Majesty, as a captain of the Seraph and your personal champion, I will stand for Kryta.
For the Legions!
If this be my death, let it be a valiant one. I have failed my friends. I will not fail in this last great hunt.
The dragon's corruption is a blight that sickens the heart. If we do not stop Zytan, the entire world will wither and die.
Stealing technology, threatening innocence, standard Inquest procedure. But this time, they crossed the wrong genius.
Nothing before Zytan's might. Stagger before the power of the dragon. Insects, you've chosen a terrible time to be heroes.
So it's been a year, almost exactly a year as of the 28th since Guild Wars 2 initially launched. We've come in incredible ways in a year so far with the game. One of the biggest things that we've done since we've launched is we've set up our cadence for releasing updates in the game. And we've really restructured our entire studio to get to the point where now we're actually releasing regular updates more often than any other core MMO out there in history. Every 2 weeks, we put out a major release for our game. Basically, every other Tuesday. So one Tuesday, we're announcing what's coming the next week, and a week later, it's going into the game. And that has become the regular cadence that we update our game, basically going forward. And the way that we've accomplished that is basically we've rebuilt the structure and the way that our company operates from the ground up to allow every single person to be able to be working on specific updates when we know that they're going to drop, and to be strategically planning out 6 months ahead of time or farther what is coming to our game, what is the big things that we want to do, what are the things that we want to accomplish to grow and expand the experience within our game. And the reason we're doing all of that is we want to live up to the promise of when Guild Wars 2 first came out, of having a game that truly feels alive. It feels like every time you log in, you could experience something different. That every time you play, you could see something different in our world and experience something unique and something that no one else has maybe seen before, or experience it for the first time and be part of that. And that's really important to us. We think that the future of MMOs, hey guys, the future of MMOs is crafting online worlds, and worlds that people come together and experience, worlds that change and drive those experiences around them. Worlds that feel like, just like when you walk out the door every day, you might see something different. You may experience a different world. That's what we want to craft within our game. And that's extremely important to us for where we want to go in the future and the things that we're doing right now. And we feel like having a cadence and being able to update our game every 2 weeks allows us to start to accomplish that. It means the world around the players can constantly change, and we can have large impact that plays out for a really long period of time. And that's played out and been really successful for us so far. Recently, we announced that Guild Wars 2 is the fastest selling MMO in the history of the West. We're well over 3.5 million copies sold now, putting a landmark for long ago we did a vote in our game where we allowed players to vote for 2 different candidates who would join the council of our main city, Lion's Arch. And depending on the outcome of that vote, it actually determined what one of our development teams was going to build later this year. They got to vote between 2 different fractals, which is our infinitely repeatable dungeon. They got to pick which one we were going to build from scratch. And it had a lot of other world consequences as well, from discounts on waypoints versus buying keys. A lot of different things that each one of the candidates promised. But it's an unprecedented concept of putting this out there and really allowing your players to vote in-game and determine what the future of the game will hold. And they don't see it yet, but one of the things that they're going to see over time is this character that they voted into office is going to be a big part of the stories that come into the future. She's going to have a vote on Lion's Arch. She's going to determine the outcome of things that happen in the game. And 4 years from now, we hope they can point back and say, this character determined that she's going to do this stuff, and we're the ones who voted her into office 4 years ago. That's really important to us, is each time we do these things, to pay them off and make them feel like the world is changing. We recently, just last week, released a major release where our big villain, Scarlet, revealed herself for the first time. And for the last 9 months, we've been setting up the storyline of her pulling together all these different alliances across the world and causing havoc and causing problems to the players. And this storyline is played out really like a television show, where you don't really know what's coming. You don't know what it's building up to. And for the first time, over 9 months, she finally revealed herself. And that story is going to play out now all the way through the start of next year. And this is sort of like, to us, season 1. Is a way to put it. Is, this is the first season of our television show, and we have a long ways to go with this character and to see what she does to our world. But right now, she's attacking different zones all over the world. She laid siege to Divinity's Reach and tried to kill the queen of one of our major capital cities. And this character is playing out and affecting the story of our entire world. Those are the things we want to do with Living World, but we want to push it even further. We want to have a game where the things that players do have an even larger permanent impact. It changes the entire landscape of our world. Where they're binding together and they're actually building parts of the world and have a sense of ownership over what's coming. And that's really what we'll be looking towards as we build into year 2 for Guild Wars 2, is empowering our players, making them an even bigger part of that process, and really making them feel like they own and define the world that they're going to experience, and the things that we do truly change that world around them. And that's going to be a big part of where we want to go. So that's only one aspect of our game. Another major aspect is PvP. And a third major aspect is our world versus world giant open world warfare. And for those two, I'm going to turn it over to the experts. John Corpening is our PvP team coordinator, and Devon is our world versus world team coordinator. And we're going to start off with Devon, who's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the stuff we have coming up there.
Am I? So we've been focusing since the game launched on improving the world versus world experience. Move over this way.
Yeah, so
That's fine.
you'll be more comfortable, and they'll get the logo.
Oh, I see. Chris just wants to make sure the logo.
I do want the logo.
I can stand even closer to the TV if you'd like, Chris.
The shirt's not enough. And your shirt. Your shirt will display fully at this point.
So yeah, we've been focusing really hard since the game launched on world versus world, on improving some of the baseline systems that are in the game type already, and adding new features to world versus world. What we've been working on for the past couple months, and we're getting ready to roll out, is what we're terming Season 1 of World versus World. And the idea behind it is that we're going to put the European worlds into 3 leagues of 9 worlds each, and the North American worlds into 2 leagues of 12 worlds each. And over the course of 7 weeks, we're going to schedule out the matchups ahead of time, and we're going to make it so that every single world plays every other world in their league at least once. So you can think of the concept a lot like a sporting season in soccer or football, any of those things. And what we'll do is if a server wins their matchup, they'll get some number of points. If a server gets second place in their matchup, they get another number of points. And if a world gets third place in their matchup, they get some number of points. And at the end of the season, we tally up all those points, and we are going to give out rewards to everyone that took part in the season based on how their world performed over the course of the season. The big top level reward that we're going to hand out to the winner of each individual league is a custom finisher that only people that are on that world will have access to. We're going to be giving out, it is a Doliak, the Supply Doliak trophy, so there'll be a gold, silver, and a bronze version depending on which league your world is in. The way that we're breaking up who belongs in which worlds are in which league is we'll take their world versus world rating just before the season starts, and that's how we'll break down the league. So the top rated worlds will be in the gold league, the bottom rated worlds will be in the bronze league. The season's going to last for 7 weeks. It starts on October 4th and runs through November 21st. Over that course of time, there will be a whole bunch of achievements that we're adding that are in World v. World that'll be rewarding players for doing all the things that you do in World vs. World, killing players, taking keeps, taking towers, killing Doliaks, all those things. Our goal is to kind of bring a long-term goal to being awesome in World v. World. Right now, every week, you have your matchup, you want to win your matchup, everybody fights really hard to win their matchup. But once that week's over, you've accomplished your goal, and then it starts all over again. We wanted to not only intensify that weekly battle to be in first, but we wanted to give you a long-term goal. So now over 7 weeks, you have that goal of like, well, maybe we got second place this week, but we're going to win the next couple weeks, and then by the end of the season, we're going to be number 1. So that's what we're adding to World vs. World. We're really excited about it. I know I'm looking forward to seeing how many of those achievements I can unlock and seeing how well the server that I'm on happens to do. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing that's coming to World vs. World starting October 4th.
Before we move on to the next guy, any questions about World v. World for Devon here?
I know it's silly, but will these awards be given out to the entire server or just people participate?
So the way that we have it set up is the rewards that are based on how your world performed over the entire course of the season will be tied to an achievement, much like the Living World releases are. So there's some sort of achievement that's tracking the rest of the achievements that are part of the season. So you have to do a subset of the total set of World vs. World season achievements, and then we'll give you a key, and then that key will, at the end of the season, unlock a chest that you get based on how your world performed. And you'll have to get all the achievements to get that reward. There will, however, also be rewards given out to everybody on the server every week based on how their world performed the week prior. So if you log in once a week and play the game, you'll get rewards based on how your world performed the week prior. But all the things rewards will be based on completing the achievement that's tracking a subset of the other achievements. I don't want to give exact numbers because I can't remember them right now, so I don't want to be lying. But it is much like the Living World achievements have been recently, where it is not the case that you say have to complete every single achievement. It's complete X out of all Y achievements, and then you'll get the reward. So there'll be a ton of stuff in that chest at the end, and obviously there'll be a lot of stuff for the world that places first, and then it'll get less and less, but there's still going to be a ton of good stuff, even if your server was the bottom performing server in your league.
Okay. So with that, why don't we go ahead and turn it over to John for PvP?
I guess I'll take the microphone. Make sure that my tubes align there. So those are some tough acts to follow because PvP just recently put out some big features, and so we don't really have specific announcements to come out with right now, but we can talk about some direction that we're going in. So, we just recently put out Custom Arenas and Spectator mode, and then came Skyhammer. We announced a big tournament that's finishing up tomorrow, and then Solo Arena, which was probably our most requested feature from our players. So, there's already been lots of big stuff coming out, and going forward, what we're looking at is we want to make PvP feel more rewarding to players. One of the things we're kind of hearing right now from our players is that they want to be able to set goals for themselves, and so from our, the more hardcore players are kind of looking for big tournaments, big events, that sort of thing. For our more core players, they're just looking for the ability to set short and medium term goals and to feel more rewarded in PvP. So we understand that's an area that could use a lot of improvement right now, and so we're going to be addressing that soon. So one of the things that really kind of surprised us when Custom Arenas came out, there's just a really big community outpouring from that one. Lots of tournaments started coming up, and lots of events, and it just really kind of inspired us to look at our community, and how they're putting things together. And so this is all the area that we're looking at now. So, like I said, we don't really have big announcements of PvP right now. Like, these guys have specific things to talk about, but direction we're looking at is, we want to make PvP more rewarding. We want to make it easier for players to learn the game, get into the game, teach the game to each other, and all that. So.
And we've got our big tournament tomorrow.
And we have the big tournament tomorrow, and it's going to be very exciting. In fact, Car Crash and Sync are in town, and we're going to be meeting with them later today. And anyway, any questions on
Any questions about PvP? No? All right, back to you, Colin.
All right, so taking the momentum of what's going on tomorrow, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the other things that we're going to be revealing to the players tomorrow. So obviously tomorrow, like John said, we have our giant PvP championship. This is something where the last couple months we've been doing qualifiers in Europe and North America to find the 2 best teams in the world, bring them here to Seattle, and have them compete against each other. This I was talking earlier about how the first year is kind of us getting things ready and building up to where we want to go with the game, and this is the tip of the iceberg. As we get ready to take the game into Asia and really grow what the future of the game is going to be, we expect PvP and World versus World in particular, and this concept of seasons for World versus World and these competitive tournaments for PvP to really blossom and grow into something much larger and worldwide and global, and put us into the leadership area in MMOs in all of those areas as we continue to grow the game and really drive what competitive gameplay can be in an MMO. That's something that's really important to us, and we want to be on the forefront of that, both for giant open world battles in World versus World and for competitive gameplay and our competitive PvP. Those are big focuses for us, is to really own that spot as the game that you think of when it comes to competitive gameplay in the MMO space. So that's one of the big things that we're going to be looking at in the next year. But also as we look at PvE and this concept of growing our game naturally through the living world and changing the game around the players, one of the big things that we want to do is we want to create content that brings a lot of players together, incentivizes them all to play together, and rewards them for doing so. And we've shown a little bit of that with the invasions I was talking about earlier, where one of our main characters, Scarlet, has been attacking different parts of the world. One of the big things that we're going to showcase tomorrow and reveal to all the players and everyone is our new giant boss. And it's actually a boss that we had at launch, but we wanted to make a lot more exciting, and we've basically spent the last 6 months working on this and making it something really incredible. And this is Tequatl, who is our giant undead dragon who rules over the Sparkfly part of the swamp in Guild Wars 2. And this is a battle that's intended for at least 80 players. And traditionally, if you look at what traditional MMOs would do, these giant encounters are locked away in dungeons, where very specific players are the only ones who can experience them. And you really have to get a really big group of people together. You have to also show up at the same time. You have to all fight through a bunch of content, and then if you're really, really organized, maybe you get to experience that content. That's not what Guild Wars 2 is about. We want a game where everyone can get together and experience everything, where they can be a part of the community and feel like the whole game is available to them. And so Tequatl is a giant open world boss that requires at least 80 people working really well together to overcome. It scales well up beyond 80 people who can all participate in it at once. And that's going to be going live later in September for all our players to experience. but we're going to showcase it tomorrow at our big company party for the first time for people to play against it. I guarantee they're all going to die a lot, but it'll be pretty entertaining. And this is the first of a lot of bosses that we're going to be doing in the future. We really want to take this concept of bringing players together, having them work together in part of these giant open world encounters, and we want to build more of these. We want it to be something that's a big part of defining what our game is. We figure if you're going to have a giant open world MMO, if you're going to make a game where people can res each other and play together and not be in conflict with one another, which is one of the core principles of Guild Wars 2, we need to take advantage of that as much as we possibly can and create encounters that make people want to get together, that make them want to play with hundreds of other people at the same time, and take advantage of the fact that that is the game we made. Let's make that the centerpiece of the things that we experience in our open world. And that's a big focus of what we're going to deliver to people in the second half of this year. And Tequatl is really the first piece of showing that off. And we really love for you guys to come check it out tomorrow, to watch a whole lot of people die and cheer and jump in, and maybe you can die too. It would be great. But we can all experience together, and eventually over time people will develop tactics and understand how to do this and get better and better and better at being able to defeat him. But it requires a really strong amount of cooperation and players working together. And with our recent innovations we've done, we've seen that our players are capable of doing that, and they really have a great time when they do it. And so it's something that's going to be a big part of where we go in the future.
Just how tough is this rework boss?
Well,
the toughest.
He is by far and away the hardest thing in the game for a lot of people to get together and do. I can say that us playing together in our studio with the most revised version of him recently, along with all of our alpha testers and everyone who's helping us build the game, that we've never gotten him below more than 40 or 50% of his health. And we know that our players in the live version of the game are always better at the game than we are, and we know that they're better organized than we are, and we know that there are tactics you can put together to defeat him if you play really well together. But that's kind of a baseline for us, is if we can't do it, we know that our players working together will be able to do it. And so we put that right on the edge. Let's make it just hard enough that they all have to work together to do that. It's going to be really fun to watch them over the course of weeks and months figure out how to work together and do it. There are very clear tactics of how to do it, and the folks that we haven't been able to work together well enough to do that. It's kind of ironic. We all work together every day, but we haven't been able to actually pull together well enough to accomplish it. But we know that our players will be able to. And there's some really amazing rewards that can come off of this boss for people who are able to actually defeat it and work together to accomplish it. So it's something that we're really excited to see get out there.
What kind of rewards?
There's a lot of unique skins that you can only get from this boss. We just went over today with our fans a lot of information about the Ascended weapons that we're going to be adding to our game. And there are unique Ascended weapons that you can only get from defeating Tequatl, and unique skins that come with that. And we're really excited to put that stuff out there and have those people who can say, I took part in beating this boss. I was world first. I was there to take him down. And some people will have that rare chance of getting that item and being able to show it off to everyone else. So that's something we're really excited about. We hope our guilds get together and start planning sessions where all the guilds are coming together trying to defeat him at once. The different guilds pick different times where they're going to go after these. And as we continue to do more bosses and more giant world encounters like this through our living world, we'd like to see more and more of that. It's things that you have a reason to get together with your world and do and feel like you're going to overcome. Yeah.
Is this new version of Tequatl just going to be replacing the old version of Tequatl, so it'll still be in Sparklife then, still the same kind of area of the world?
Correct, yeah, okay. Although the experience has changed pretty drastically.
Fair enough.
How do you deal with giving out the loop between the guilds and stuff? Assuming they ever do actually kill them.
It's the same concept as any of the other rewards in Guild Wars 2, which is basically if you're there and participating, you qualify for rewards from it. And some of them are things that you'll just get for being there, and there's some great rewards that you'll always get if you're able to defeat him. And you actually get rewards as you knock down percentages of his health as well. So the hope would be when we first put him out, people are like, yeah, we got him to 75% health, we got the treasure chest, woo! And then they're putting screenshots of that up. And a couple days later, some people are able to get him to 50% health. And they're on their forums, and they're on the community, and they're in-game, and they're talking about, this is how we got him to 50. And there's a chest at each 25% as you progress down. And then eventually when you get to that point where you knock out all his health, that's where the really great rewards are, and you have a chance of getting all those each time you take him down. And anyone who was there qualifies for a chance of getting those.
Is this kind of a forerunner of the other world bosses, like the Claw or the Jungle Worm or those kind of things? Is this going to be the same procedure, the same idea that you're going to go forward with?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we want to try to do with Living World is not just create a sense that the world is constantly changing and evolving around you, but use it as an opportunity to go back and take things in our game that we think could be even more fun and more exciting, and use it as an opportunity to update those and make them more fun, but have a story that comes around it. I think traditionally in an MMO, you get an update and a bunch of stuff in the game changes, and there's no reason for it. It just changes. And I think we don't want to do that. We want to make a game where when something in the game changes around you in the world, there's a story why it changed. You feel like the world is evolving, and you feel like it actually had a reason for it to happen. And it's a big part of why we want to do updates every 2 weeks, is so we can tell stories to all these things that we change. So every boss in the game, at some point, we'd like to go back and take a look at each one of them and make them a lot more fun, make them a lot more rewarding. The ones who are in the newbie zones maybe might not be quite as hard as the ones we do later in the game. Introduce new bosses as well. But we want to make sure that this concept and philosophy of really providing big challenges for our players and our guilds to get together and do it in the open world is something that's a big part of what we have going on. But we're going to do it with a story that changes it. So there's always a reason.
Okay.
Yeah, well, on the idea of the story, and you likened the living story to like a TV show, which I think is a really apt way of describing how you've gone about telling the story now. But if there's a new player coming into Guild Wars 2, how are they going to have a Netflix binge of Season 1 of Guild Wars 2?
Well, I think right now the answer to that would be that a lot of that stuff that we're building, we're trying to make more permanent and stuff that they could go back and experience later. So when Tequatl changes, he'll be there forever that people can fight. When we start, when we take a dungeon that may not be as exciting, and through our Living World releases, we overhaul and change that dungeon and make it a lot more fun. The idea is it's something that people 5 years from now can come back and experience, but the story of why it changed is there, and you feel like it has context in the world. There are also unique storylines that are going on that set up this content changing, and that story comes back out again, because it really is a slice in time, When our big villain, Scarlet, attacked Divinity's Reach, she's not going to constantly be attacking Divinity's Reach, and in a week that attack will be over, and she'll move on to another thing. And so one of the things we're trying to figure out is, how do we create the concept of letting people go back and experience that as well? And we don't have an answer for it yet, but it's something that we're really talking about a lot, is we want to be able to allow people to also experience those story moments in time and go back and see that. And whether it's through your personal story or some other system, we haven't finalized. But it is something that we're thinking about and want to make it as open and something that people 4 years from now can experience all that as much as we can.
To Colin's point, as you play every single content update, and every content update has its own unique storyline, there is still an underlying story that's being carried through. Characters, features in the game will come back.
Yeah, and occasionally we'll take the episode off where we do the I guess like X-Files, is you had the story in the background of the smoking man, and then occasionally they do episodes that have nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Sometimes we'll have those, and then we'll jump back on the main storyline. And so Scarlet and her story is really our main storyline of what's going on right now. And that's actually part of a bigger plot that we're going to reveal someday. So there you go.
So you guys are obviously putting a lot into building up Scarlet. Are you worried that like down the road you're gonna, I don't know, but kill her off and then kind of lose all that and then have to start from scratch, or is it going to be kind of more the arch nemesis thing where the person will be able to come back in either a different form or
my take on that, and this is just my personal opinion, is I think TV shows where you have that character who just cheesily reappears constantly, and they never finish anything. Like, I'll give Gur Martin credit; he'll kill characters left and right. And I think there's something really compelling about that. Is it puts you on your edge of your seat. You never know who's going to survive. You never know which characters are the ones that are the really compelling are going to make it 3 books later, and it makes you keep reading. You always want to find out, is a character I love going to survive? What's going to happen to them? What's going to become of them? That's really more the philosophy that we want to have, is when you get to the end of a season in our game, or the end of a storyline, and we kick up the next one, it shouldn't feel like this character is going to magically reappear wearing different armor a year later, and then there'll be cyborg version a year after that. We really want to build on what a living story can be, in that sense of, if something happens, it truly means something. It's permanent. And so if we kill a character, we want them dead. And we want it to mean something, and we want people to actually feel something from that. And I think we're doing a good job of telling stories in the living world right now. We want to build to the point that we're doing an amazing job, and there's no one else telling stories like that. That's what we want to get to, and I think we're continuing to learn and build as we go forward. But if we kill someone, that's going to be it. They're gone. And we want to have moments like that. We want people to care and know that that can happen.
And that goes for our allies as well.
It very much does, yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that we've kind of struggled with for the first year is we have a lot of characters that we set up through our personal story, and we've tried to wrap our heads around how do we take advantage of these characters, how do we use them properly, because a player who hops in tomorrow and starts a new character has to go through that whole personal story and experience those characters as who they are. And so we've tried to avoid doing too much with our stories, because we don't want to throw off a brand new character versus an advanced character and how those stories work. And we're trying to fix it so that we can take those characters and do whatever the heck we want with them. That we could kill someone from your personal story in our living world and make that impactful and make it mean something. And so, yes, that name has come up. So those are all things that we're really trying to make that something that's a lot more impactful and meaningful for sure.
Who is that big chained guy in the...
He is from the Fractals, which is, yes,
Okay.
he is one of the Fractals that we released back in November. You actually go up and you free him, and so you take a big hammer and you basically knock a chain off of him at a time as you progress your way to your top, and then you break him loose and the Colossus basically storms off into the distance at the end of the Fractal. And the Fractals is something, they're basically moments in time. They're points locked into time that you can go back and experience. And one of the really compelling things about that, when you combine it with our concept of living world, is we can actually go back and take moments that happened and revisit them through this dungeon. And so we're doing that right now. The giant molten weapons facility dungeon that we revealed earlier this year. And it had a big storyline where players actually went up, they set a bunch of bombs, and they blew up the dungeon at the end of it and destroyed all the weapon facilities. We're going to add those into our Fractals dungeon later this year, so you can go back and experience that dungeon. So it doesn't permanently leave the game, but you can see that storyline of what happened in the past. And that's something for new players to be able to go back and see, what is this moment that happened in time. Similarly, we're also doing that with our Aetherblade Retreat dungeon, where the Aetherblades built a hidden base inside of Lion's Arch that they were operating out of. We're going to put that in our Fractals as well, so people can go back and experience that dungeon experience and have it part of that whole Fractals of time. And we're going to take a lot of advantage of that in the future as well.
Any other questions? So just so you guys know, the information that was shared today is going to be announced tomorrow at our event at the Renaissance, and it's taking place at 3 p.m. And as such, all this information is embargoed until that time, 3 p.m. tomorrow.
And we have one other reveal we're going to do late tomorrow night, where you can come check it out. It's the Next Worlds of the Super Adventure Box. So if you guys want to come play that as well, please come join us. Yeah, you can jump in and check it out as well. But all day tomorrow at the Renaissance, we're going to be showcasing a lot of this content that we just talked about. We're going to be revealing the World versus World seasons, and we're going to be showcasing the championship of PvP. So it's a lot of great stuff to come see if you guys have time. We'd love to have you there.
Cool.